The most discussed topics today are the flight of Bashar al-Assad, the introduction of Israel ground forces into Syria, and of course, the meeting between Trump and Zelensky, and the statement of the future US president about the cessation of hostilities in Ukraine. We will also analyze the situation at the front, and we will consider in which direction Russian troops are advancing and which settlements the Ukrainian armed forces have returned under their control. Well, let's start with Syria, because Assad's voluntary surrender of the country came as a surprise to many, and people cannot understand why Moscow has weakened its support. After what happening in Syria, Russia will have to decide how to preserve the military bases that control the exit to Africa and the Mediterranean Sea, because the agreement was made with Assad and his government, and now they're gone. In the last few years, the Syrian government began to select ministers who were against Russia, and they became the majority. Therefore, an open turn away from Russia began in Syria, and preference began to be given the standards of the European Union and Iran. Moreover, the Syrian government made it clear in a very possible way that Russia helped in the civil war in 2015 thanks to it for this, and then Damascus will go its own way. Maybe that is why Assad's power collapsed so quickly. Or maybe this was influenced by the Ukrainian conflict, on which all of Russia's attention is focused. And we will not exclude that Syria could have been ceded in exchange for more important things. Although, what actually happened, we can only guess. By the way, Bashar al-Assad tried to negotiate with Donald Trump to stay in power, at least in part of Syria. And there were also negotiations with the opposition. But nothing helped. At the same time, Maria Zakharova said that Moscow was closely monitoring the events in Syria, but did not take part in the negotiation. As a result, the rule of the Assad family, which lasted 54 years, ended. And now armed opposition units control Damascus. But where the head of the state himself is, has not yet been officially reported. But it seems that the president of Syria, with members of his family, arrived in Moscow. Well, while Assad is saving himself, they continue to plunder his palace in Syria and show how many cars the former president had. By the way, it must be admitted that Assad's collection is impressive. Now, let's move on to the Trump's meeting with Zelensky. You already know that the other day, Zelensky, Trump and Macron held a meeting in Paris. And Western media are discussing this meeting in full swing and writing that Donald Trump was uncomfortable being next to Zelensky, who was constantly trying to attract attention to himself. And if you look closely at the meeting between Trump and Zelensky, you can see it clearly.
Very happy to see you. Nice to see you. How are you? Very happy to see you.
After meeting with the illegitimate Zelensky, Donald Trump made a statement that Kyiv is ready to conclude a peace agreement with Russia. And in an interview with NBC News, Trump repeated that if Europe wants to continue the war, then let Ukraine be financed. Because there is an ocean between Russia and the United States, and a war with Russia is not as important for the States as it is for Europe. That is, if Europe wants to, then let it fight. At the same time, Trump called on Russia and Ukraine and introduced a ceasefire, which should precede the start of peace negotiation. However, these were all statements by Trump, but as for Zelensky himself, he did not comment on his readiness for a deal with Russia, and he once again stated that he does not accept any peace agreements without security guarantees. And now we will move on to the situation in the front. In the area of Velika Novoselka, the Ukrainian armed forces actively carried out counterattacks to push Russian troops out of Novy Kamar. And you can see all of this on a map. Today the battles for control over this area continue. And at the same time, Russian units have strengthened their position on the eastern approaches to the village. Now regarding Kurakhova. In this area, Russian troops continue to advance and are advancing from the side of Sukhi Yeli and are also bypassing the Kurachovskaya reservoir from the side of Berezki and Solntsovka. Also, north of Solntsovka, Russian forces entered the settlement of Zarya and are entering the outskirts of Pushkina. At the same time, there is an active advance in the settlement of Novotroitskaya, Shevchenka and Dachinskaya. That is, the offensive on Pokrovsk continues. And in the southern section of the Pokrovsk direction, Russian troops broke through the defense of the armed force of Ukraine and took control of several settlements. They are also advancing in the Toretsk area. In the city itself, the offensive continues, and in the central part of Toretsk, Russian forces have managed to expand the zone of control. Also, Russian troops control strategically important areas in the area of the Centralnaya mine, including its northern west heap, and have advanced west of the mine. In the Kursk region, in the Sudzhansky districts, Russian troops took control of the settlement of Plokhova and the adjacent forest areas, pushing the Ukrainian armed forces back beyond the Psol River, and only 6 kilometers remain to the southeastern outskirts of the city of Sudzha. In addition, in the area of Pogrybki, Ruskaya Povrechna and Cherkasskaya Povrechna, intensification of hostilities is noted. And judging by the map, the Ukrainian armed forces have advanced in Novaya Sorochina and Orlovka. Advancement is also noted in the direction of Guyeva, where Russian troops are trying to cut off the important logistics supply route for the Ukrainian armed forces. These are the changes that have taken place today. On this I say goodbye to you until the next episode. Subscribe to the channel. If you like the review, then put a like and a rocket. This will help bring video to the top and more people will be able to see it. And I'm also waiting for your comments. I wish you all the best. Bye everyone.